BJ the Brave here, back with another deck guide for you, and today we are going to be looking at the new Ork vehicles. I say new because the main rule that all the vehicles in the Orks have is called unstable, and that has recently been changed in the match balance patch. Lots of you have been asking me to do an Ork vehicle deck. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to show you my deck that I came up with for vehicles, which I'm calling Oil and Steel. Then I'm going to show you a couple of games, but hang about to the end, because at the end what I'm then going to do is go into quite a detailed breakdown about what I think about the state of Ork vehicles and how they work, and what I think some of the challenges are, and I'm going to show you an alternative deck list based on that conversation, okay? So quite a lot we're going to cover. Let's dive on into the original concept of the deck. This is Oil and Steel. Now I'm using Ghazghkull Thraka mainly because he has the health. We want to kind of like try and tempo our opponent down with this deck, so that helps us in this battle. At a pinch, he can obviously give the +1 melee attack, and also he can fill out the curve in terms of putting another body on the board for our opponent to deal with the Grot. If I was going to say which Warlord do I think would be the second best for this type of build, I'd actually say it's Ghazghkull, and the reason for that is that it's a tempo deck, so Gruk loses tempo even though he gains card draw, Dragon costs 2, and the reason for Ghazghkull I think is that he only costs 1, so it fits into the tempo quite nice. The armor helps if the unstable hits your own Warlord, and also you know, the +1 does allow him to kind of A, deal with flyers, and B, deal with a lot of the kind of 3 health Astra Militarum units that we're seeing in the meta right now. So I think Zag could actually do quite well, and I do have a separate Zag deck which I'm probably going to do a video on, but I do think overall I kind of just prefer Ghazghkull for this type of deck. Okay, let's dive on into the deck. Of course we've got Makari because it's an Ork deck and it's the best legendary in the game still, in my opinion, so you've got to run him. Now we do run double Cloud of Smoke. Now Cloud of Smoke is a really cool card. I've always loved this card. Me and one of my alliance members, Killa Kan, we were running this like back in the day, like over a year ago now, but obviously it only works particularly well in a vehicle deck. Blind is no joke, right? This is a really good way of cheating the tempo curve. Imagine Astra Militarum are the meta right now, right? And look at all the range damage that they come with. So blinding these units is no joke. It can actually really win you games. The great thing with Cloud of Smoke is that if you have one vehicle on the board, it will basically blind 2 units. So if your opponent's got like a Warlord and 1 unit down, then you guarantee no both of them will be blind, for example. So we run double Cloud of Smoke, and that's to really cheat the trade, as we call it, to make sure we can trade our unit for free, essentially. Now we do run a single copy of Scrag Em. It's really important when you're deck building to think about the stratagems that you're going to play. When you're running like a tempo deck where you've got lots of bodies and it's important to play them every turn, you can't have tons of stratagems, because if you miss the tempo, then you end up like basically you lose the whole game, right? Your whole game plan falls down. Every turn you've got to hit it. So you have to be selective, and what we've gone for in this deck is very much like prioritizing things like Scrag Em and Cloud of Smoke as our things. One, because Cloud cheats the trade. Scrag Em because there are going to be turns where the tempo war is very even, and being able to put Vanguard on a big unit, for example, could really help us to get over the line. Similarly, if it gets into the late game, this card gets excellent because we can flank like a big vehicle. Okay, we got double Grot Tank. This is a great unit. Always been a pretty good unit. Now it's a great unit with the stats. Can't be cheated very easily. But also the fact that the unstable can damage our opponent now as well. Just I think this is like a superb 3-drop for the Orks. And of course it's a tank. We do run the Pyromaniaks. This helps us get extra damage. For example, we've got quite a few flankers in this deck, so we can flank and we can pyro along with the war boss. That means we can be doing at least 4 AoE damage potentially, or getting those extra few points on the Warlord to win the game. So pyros are a cheeky spell indeed. We run the double spanner because we are running a vehicle deck, so obviously every time that we've mob, which basically means we attack with a melee attack, what that basically means is that our vehicles are going to get buffed, and that's exactly what we want in this deck. We're running double Warbiker, which is of course a vehicle. So you know, for example, say you've got Spanner, say you're closing on the end game, you can play Warbiker first, so it can get fast and attack the face. Then you can drop a spanner. Then you can attack with Ghazghkull, and that's going to give the Warbiker buff. So it may have increased reach basically. We run the double Deffkopta in the 4-drops. This has always been a pretty decent 4-drop, and of course with the change to unstable, it's very, very good now. One of the things I quite like to do with the Deffkopta is play it turn 1. If you're going second, you've got the Grot Rigger's defense spell, and you can basically just get it out straight away, which is a fantastic tempo drop. We do run 2 copies of No Mukkin About. I tell you what, like, this is a card that could definitely be, you could definitely drop one of these if I'm honest, like, especially in a tempo deck like this. I think I'd be pretty comfortable with just 1 copy of it, and especially in an Astra Militarum meta where really until kind of like, you know, at least turn 7, if not turn 9, they're not really playing anything that big. So I think you could get away with dropping 1, but they're just so good. It's probably the best hard removal in the game still. So I've got 2 copies. Just great for dealing with stealth as well. That's the other key to this card. Now, the Ork Nob goes in every single deck, so we run it here. We do run double Snazzwagon. I think this card's got better with the change to unstable, and again, can benefit from the spanners, can benefit from the cloud of smoke. We've got the double Killa Kans because, you know, for 5e, they're pretty cheap. They're amazingly well statted. I know their health's not amazing, actually. Their health's okay, it's passable. But the stats are really powerful. If your opponent has to trade into this, by the way, to finish it, which it often can, they're taking 7 damage, and it's like, you know, in a trade race, this can help win the game. So the extra mob ability is okay, but it's mainly the fact that it costs 5. We can discount it. We can cheat the trade with the ability like Cloud of Smoke, and it's also amazing with Scrag Em on E7, right? Because that's a heck of a flanker coming on and walloping for 7 damage. We don't bring Mekboy Gazmek. This is the guy who's going to get your units cheap in the deck, so this deck's made for him. And the other thing is as well, he comes with a whole range of through his talent, the Mekaniak, or what, I don't even say that, but basically puts custom jobs on the vehicles. You can give him a flank, for example, which is superb. You can give health to the vehicle, and also if one's already on the board, I really like this one, giving you +2 and concussive. I mean, that's pretty nasty, especially on things like Killa Kans that already have 7 damage. That can put a lot of reach onto your opponent's face. Anyway, then of course in the 6-drops we've got the Squigbuggies. This card just got even better now due to the unstable rule, and we have got the Veteran Stormboy as well. And the main reason for Vet Stormboy here is that he is a melee flanker, and melee is what is triggering all of these mobs that you will have noticed we have in the game. And speaking of which, we run double Deff Dread, and again this does 1 to 3 damage to a random enemy for every time we mob attack with melee damage, so good synergy there. We got 2 of those. We run a single Krumpaklaw and the double Will of Gork. So that is the deck. If you were looking to make changes, I think you could drop 1 Mukking About. You could also put Gork, which is the 7e legendary, in. You could potentially drop 1 Deff Dread and put the 6e legendary in for the stun, just to fill up your curve there. That's actually not a bad idea. But the rest of the deck is pretty good. You could run things like proper Killy, you know, to try and give you Ghazghkull just more reach from Makari. But really, we win in this game by controlling the board, tempoing out, and then just finishing with our units. So that's the deck, guys. What we're going to do now is jump into a couple of games. Then I'm going to talk about what I think some of the pros and cons are with vehicles, and show you that alternative version as a result. Okay. So here we have Galaron. We're just going to kick the Will of Gork and keep everything there. They're actually just going to drop Makari and hit, take the kind of HP advantage. But of course, he gets it back with the killing of Makari and the heal. Now here we can go ahead and extract a rig out. Quite a nice thing to do with the Killa Kans. It's another good reason for playing Killa Kans. Like, basically means on turn 2 you've got Killa Kans and Snazzwagon. 2 really good options there for a really cheap tempo curve. Unfortunately, he kind of has the perfect answer, so this is a little bit annoying. And also the unstable hits us for 3. So like that couldn't have gone more perfect for him. Could have been a problem, but Galaron is pretty nasty, right? He can melt big units anyway pretty well. So here we're just going to kind of go and refill with the Grot Tank and the King of the Grots himself, Makari. Down comes the Bringer of Decay. Now, obviously, this unit is problematic, especially for melting big units. But this, guys, is where the Cloud of Smoke can really come in. So we're actually going to go ahead. We're going to play Makari. We're going to play the Cloud of Smoke. And we're just going to kind of use, give everything a boost and get an extra Grot. One of the nice kind of things with Ghazghkull, you can kind of have these turns where you play what I almost call like in between your curve. You know, like still present a decent board. The problem we've got in this particular matchup is that Galaron obviously is just so good at melting big units, just so good against these mid-range decks. And so unfortunately it's going to be really difficult to kind of build a sustainable board. Like in many other matches we would do much better. So he's doing really well at just kind of Magic Lou. He's doing very well at actually dealing with these threats, because we definitely presented some pretty strong threats, threatening positions in this game. But you know, he's doing quite well with it. So this time we're actually going to go ahead and do Grot and Killa Kan. So once again, I think we're presenting a really strong board. And again, Galaron has these fantastic answers, right? Like cheap pings combined with the Warlord ability to put vulnerable 2. And he gets rid of that, no problem. Now where does the unstable go? He kills his own unit. Okay, so the first one backfired massively on us. The second one helped us a little bit. We actually use this turn to just put a little bit of face damage on. Classic bike, Makari, then Grot turn. That bike's going to be doing a lot of damage. That's a 9 damage to face turn. The only problem with that move is obviously we haven't got a particularly good board. But of course, we do have a good answer to the Venom Crawler. He puts the Abaddon's Chosen on it as well. But we don't mind that because we've got No Mukkin About. I'm not even sure did the right one there. There we go. I suppose if we had it, we had it. It didn't really matter that much anyway. And we actually go ahead and play the Ork Nob here. And the reason for that is if you look at our hand, they're all flankers anyway, so it's not like we need the Nob's ability particularly right here. And we just really want to present the most threatening board we can. And he makes himself invulnerable. So again, Magic Lou, like really threatening us. And the problem we've got here, right, is that if he's got the Murderous Desires, we've probably lost the game. So pretty nice. And also another reason why I'm kind of interested in running Gork in this deck, just to give us that big vanguard for exactly these types of scenarios. I actually think Gork could be a really good addition to this deck, if I'm honest. Okay, so he doesn't have the Murderous Desire, so he does need to deal with the board. And that is now his second Spawn, so deal with the board he will do. And it looks like what he's going to have is his legendary card staring us in the face. And a Warlord that is healed back up to 6, is it? Nice. So we're going to play the Cloud of Smoke. And yet again, so you've seen 2 examples in this game of just like how powerful a tempo swing that is with the Cloud of Smoke. So good. Down comes the Dark Apostle. Legacy of Vengeance! Oh no! He's really looking for... I think he was really looking for that to get Vanguard. But unfortunately, it did not. Yeah, I think that's it. He didn't get the Vanguard, so we just attacked with that, and that was game over. Alright, next up we got Ursula. Now, we all know Ursula is meta. It's going to be tough, this one, but what we've got here is a pretty decent opener. Remember, we're really looking for tempo. So Creed draws a spell and drops a body. Tempo. So we're going to play the Extractor Rig and go straight in on the Deffkopta here. Now obviously we could have just played a Grot and we could have used the Extractor Rig next turn to play the Snazzwagon. That also may have been good. This is tricky for most opponents to remove, except for probably Aeldari in the first turn. Let's see what our opponent can do. That's 2 spells that he's bagged already with Ursula. Okay, so he can't quite finish it. We'll actually go ahead. We had a choice of Pyromaniaks, but Pyromaniaks not great here because it's only going to hit Ursula really on one of the blasts, so it's not doing a right lot. So we're just going to basically go ahead and do this. Now, sadly, our fantastic start to the game gets completely blown out by this broken card. Beatus Griff, which is definitely the most busted card in the game right now, and badly needs eradicating. I have no idea what was going through anyone's mind when they designed this card. But anyway, so now we've got to play Recovery. Unfortunately, this is a card where I've legitimately just resigned three games this season just the second they played this card, because it's so ridiculous. Look at this. We've had to waste the Ork Nob and take 5 damage in the face to deal with it. But we just have to do it, unfortunately. But like, we can't let that card live, so it's so ridiculous. And we've lost all that great tempo that we had, but this is the meta deck. This is what you are up against at the minute. So here at least we can kind of like get back to a normal game. Now we've dealt with that nonsense. And we can attack and bring on the Snazzwagon. Now it's his E6. What are we expecting here? Okay, so he figures out that he can clear that with the guaranteed ping from Rattling. It's one of the good things about Rattling. It does kind of guarantee you something. And he bags another stratagem. So we're going to just melee attack with the Squigbuggy here, right? Clear the Rattling. And attack base. He's going to get rid of the explosion, see where it goes. Oh, it hits Ghazghkull in the face for 2. And then he drops the Fox Operator and the Summary Execution. Obviously one of the cards that he picked up, I'm imagining, from all these strats he's been drawing. So he does have a good way to deal with it. But again, we're on the proactive on the curve, which is exactly where we need to be. Like, we just need to keep on pressing. So we're going to play the Deff Dread here, and we're just going to attack face and get the 1 to 3 damage on face. Of course, we only get 1, but hey-ho. Now, how does he deal with this? He plays the second Vox Operator. I mean, this never happens when I play guard, guys. Into the Hydra, of course, the big 7 damage. I mean, that's nasty. He does have to take 5 damage, though, to clear it, but... Oh, and of course, the blast hits us in the face. So we were going to drop the Krumpaklaw, but I decided in the end, actually, that we're going to go with the Warbiker and the Killa Kan scenario here. Like, we could have Pyrotechnics But then we'd have had nothing on the board. So that's kind of why we did it this way. So we could have basically put Ursula way down on damage, right? Because the Warbite would have hit face. But the problem is we would have had nothing on the board. And I want to stay ahead on the board, which is kind of why I made that choice to do it that way around. And he's got another another summary execution. Keep just dropping pressure bombs on the board, but yeah. Anyway. Alright, so now we have a choice. We could Krumpaklaw Greatest War Boss, which would be quite nice. Sorry, Deff Dread Greatest War Boss, and that would have put even more pressure on. But I actually decided to go ahead and put this down. She plays a standard move, move, move. I don't know if that's from the main deck or if that's one he picked up. Probably one he picked up. But he can get the Thunderous Charge now down, and of course that means he can stun this annoyingly. Yeah. Things away. So now I think we go Pyrotechnics and the Stormboy. Because this way we can kind of keep putting damage on face whilst clearing up the board. And at the same time buffing our Krumpaklaw. Pretty nice. High Command. Back up to 11 energy. And down comes the Rogel Dawn. And the Mechanized Infantry. Wow. Wow, what a play. What a play. This is where we wish we had Burner or something. Okay, so we're going to play the Squigbuggy. And what we're trying to do, and we're going to play the Spanner, we want to try and clear something off first. Right, because we want the Cloud of Smoke to hit the right thing. We actually just go ahead now because we got the armor so high that we could whack the Rogel Dawn and not die. Which is absolutely insane. And here we go, the Cloud of Smoke enables us to do this. I actually wonder whether I made the misplay here. Like, I wonder whether we should have still hit one of the ones that didn't... Like, should we have just left the 0 range guy up is what I'm saying, right? I think we might have been better doing that. Just because this guy's ability could have led to like a potential lethal for him. Stuns our tank. Takes out the Exploder. That thing's really good against AM. Game is coming down to the wire. So he's relying on this Vanguard keeping him alive, basically. But unfortunately for him, we do draw the Snazzwagon. So we can just play out like the Snazzwagon in basically whatever we want. The second one or the Deff Dread. It doesn't really matter at this point. Yep. Can attack. Attack with a Warlord. GG. Okay, so that is the deck, guys. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the Ork vehicles. Because, as you saw in those games, right, like, one of if you look at what some of the stratagems, the main stratagems, really, are things like the Cloud of Smoke and the Scrag Em. One of the problems that I see with the vehicles is that a lot of the mob synergies require you to attack with melee, but a lot of the vehicles actually have range attack, right? And also Cloud of Smoke, which is the best trick, if you like, that you can play with vehicles, it blinds the enemy. That means that it puts the enemy's range attack down to 0, so therefore you want to be attacking with your range attack. But if you're attacking with your range attack, then you're not triggering mob. And this is the fundamental problem, I think, with that's stopping this deck, this type of archetype from being like a top tier deck, because you're always in this kind of like, oh, do I go range, or do I trigger the mob ability? So, like, one of the things you could do is, you could, for example, drop Cloud of Smoke from this. You could put another Scrag Em in, sorry, and you could actually play more of the 2-drop exploders, right? And just go all in, go more in on this kind of mob ability. So you are attacking with the melee attack. The only problem is, though, you guys saw in those games just how powerful Cloud of Smoke can be in winning those trade wars. And you do need to ask yourself, if you're playing a vehicle deck, what's the trick? What gives you an advantage over just any other kind of tempo-based deck? And I think things like Cloud of Smoke are one of those things. So it's really, really difficult. I think in your deck building, you kind of got to make a decision, really. This is a little bit half and half, but I think if you probably want to make a decision. Do you want to go more all in on the melee or the range? Is this making sense, guys? Let me know in the comments. Let me show you what the deck could look like if you were going more down the Cloud of Smoke route and not so much the mob route. So this is my Oil and Steel range deck. Now what you'll see in here, we've obviously got the Cloud of Smoke. Now the Grot Tank's got 3 range, right? We've got the Shooter Boys in here with the 5 range damage, right? So again, we can get a really nice trick trade there with things like Shooter Boy. We've got Proper Killy in here because we're going a little bit lower to the ground. So Proper Killy is the one kind of like mob trigger for the Shooter Boy. We've obviously got the Burner Boy in here again with a high range attack. Obviously having synergy anyway with Mekboy and with the Spanner, giving us a little bit of AoE. You could potentially even drop 1 Will of Gork because we've got the Burner Boy in there, right? Because we've got the double AoE from that instead. Then we've got the Deffkoptas, which again have more range than melee. The Snazzwagons, more range than melee. The Killa Kans, well, they've got the 7/7, so they're fine too. The Squigbuggy's more range than melee. You could even drop 1 Stormboy in this particular version. And then we've got the Deffkopta, which again gives us more range than melee, and gives us a little bit more on the kind of burn down with the Grot Bombs as well. However, what you probably would want to do in here is, if you... let me just think, would we drop 1 Will of Gork? Do you know you could drop 1 Will of Gork, actually, because it's so fast with this deck. You could drop 1 Will of Gork and still get 1 Scrag Em in. I think actually that is it. That is it. So if you want to like practice, what I would say is try 10 games with the range, try 10 games with the original version, and see what you think, see what works better. It's a slightly different strategy. This one is more about getting those trick trades with Cloud of Smoke, whereas the other one has got slightly more kind of like mob and finishability through the mob triggers and stuff. But I think that contradiction is like, it's like the one. If you imagine Cloud of Smoke basically put your opponent's melee attack down to 0. Well, that ties in so nicely with mob. That synergizes so nicely with mob, doesn't it? And it's the one thing that I think stops this being played in a lot of Ork decks. But yeah, that's kind of where I see it at the minute, guys. Either way, I do think that the vehicle archetype has gone from being kind of tier 4 unplayable to you could definitely hit legendary one of these decks. It's like top of tier 3. It's not a tier 1 deck, don't get me wrong, but you could definitely climb to legendary with it now. I think the unstable change makes a massive difference. There's all sorts of things you didn't get to see in the video there, like a Snazzwagon coming on, flanking something, the Snazzwagon dies, the unstable hits face, essentially meaning that flankers can add to kind of burn damage, right? So overall, I think it's a really fun archetype and definitely way more playable now. Let me know what you think in the comments if you like that, and thank you for all the support. I'll see you guys in the next one.